I'm just going to start off with kind of stuff about me, where I came from and stuff like that. So I was born in Southampton, if you guys know where that is. I was born, and then my mum and my dad split up when I was very young. I was about 7 months old, and so I've always kind of lived without my dad. It's mainly just been me and my mum until I was about 7. Then she met my stepdad, who then, some of you know, went on to become a vicar. I've been moved around quite a lot. We went from Southampton to Cambridge to then Dorset. So that had quite a big effect on me. Sometimes it was great. I got to meet lots of different people, made a lot of good friends. Other times it wasn't so great. I became very isolated. It was when I first moved to Cambridge. For about 8 months, I wasn't at school because none of the schools had any places. And for a kid that spent all of his life going through primary school and first year of secondary school, you know, in a school and being surrounded by people, and I'm quite a sociable person. For me, becoming isolated, and especially in a new place where I didn't know anyone at all, I had no friends. I spent all my time at home in my room playing Xbox, and you know, that may sound like a really good time to some people in here. I know the boys are going like, yeah, I really want that. But to be fair, at the time I thought it was great. I thought, oh yeah, it's great, I get to sit at home, I get to do this, I get to do that. And then as time went on, I became more and more down, and I got into a place that was very, very low in my life. And then luckily I got put into a school. I was there for about a year and a half. Was bullied throughout that for being different, because as you guys know, I'm a dancer, and in school it's very hard, something that you're passionate about, when it's different to what other people are passionate about. So all the boys are into, you know, football and rugby and the next game that's going on and all that kind of stuff, and I just didn't care about any of that. All I wanted to do was dance. All I wanted to do was perform, and because of that, I was put down quite a lot. I had some friends, but I was very in and out of different friend groups. And then we then moved down to Dorset, and that's when things started getting pretty bad. I was quite lucky. I went straight into a school when I moved down. Had a select through group of friends. But again, I went from being a city boy, grew up in Southampton, moved to Cambridge, you know, lots of things going on, to then moving to Dorset, out in the sticks, nothing.
So what age were you when you came to Dorset?
When I came to Dorset, I was 14. And that was when things went pretty downhill. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 14, and I started going to counselling sessions and seeing my GP and whatever, but nothing was really working. And you know, I did have some sort of faith during that time, but it was very hit and miss. It was kind of like I wanted to be close to God, but I wasn't putting myself out there. I wanted the sadness and the pain to stop, but I wasn't taking the steps to do it. I wasn't, even when, you know, people were saying to me, you know, oh, maybe you need to pray a bit more, or you know, maybe go to like a church service or something like that, and I'd go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, and then I wouldn't do it. And so it was a constant cycle of, I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't taking those steps. And yeah, so I ended up becoming very isolated. The only times that I'd ever really speak to God was at Soul Survivor. I went there 2 or 3 years in a row, and every time I loved it. Every time I went there, and God really touched me. And when I'm there, I'm like, this is great. This is amazing. I feel so much better now. I'm in the presence of God. This is great. And then I went back home, and I didn't have constant worship being fed to me. I didn't have the talks. I didn't have the Christian support that I had when I was a soul survivor. And I went back. I went back to how I was. I was in a state of I was in a situation where I was pretty much most nights I was cutting myself most nights, and it was really, really hard. It was one of those things that I kind of used as an escape. It was almost like a distraction. But as much as then I thought it's helping, all it did was make it worse. Because at the time, for that split second, nothing else mattered, and that was it. It was me and this blade, and that was it. And then the morning after, I'd wake up and I'd go, what did I just do? Why am I putting myself in this situation? And one day, I was home alone. Parents had gone out. It was just after my granddad had died, which again had quite a big toll on me. And I was just a mess. I was in my room. I was screaming. I was crying. And I just said enough's enough. And I literally shouted at God, and I said, look, if you are there, which I know you are, then I need your help, because I cannot do this alone. And at that moment, everything that I had ever been hurt, everything all the bad thoughts that I'd ever had in my life, and all that pain that I was feeling at that moment in time, just went snap. I've never felt so much peace in my entire life. And I sat there and I was crying, but it wasn't sad anymore. It was happy. It was love. It was warmth. And that was a place that I hadn't been for 3-4 years before that. And from that moment, I probably said to myself, I said to God, I'm yours. And whatever you need to do with me, do it. Because for me, that was the moment in my life that everything changed. Because I went from being severely depressed and almost to the brink of suicidal to happy. And yeah, things would still get me down occasionally. I mean, obviously, I still have depression. It's not something that just kind of goes away in a click. But I know that I can trust in God now. And I know that I can, whenever I need God and whenever I'm really down, I know that He's there. He is, like, my safety net. I mean, we were singing in there earlier, and there's a line that said, through the storm He is Lord, and it's so true, because the times that you need Him most, He will always be there. You just got to listen, and you just got to kind of open your eyes to Him, and he will come. And yeah. But yeah, I think the main reason why I wanted to do this talk was because I know how hard it is to be at this age and to kind of feed into all the things that social media is giving you, that society is giving you, that your own mind is giving you. Because at this age, I mean, I don't know about everyone in here, but especially for me, I was constantly full of doubt, and I was doubting myself, I was doubting my decisions, and it was very hard being this age, because there's so many different emotions going in. Like, you're constantly trying to be almost someone that you're not. And that puts a lot of pressure on kids your age. And I just wanted to do this talk because no matter how hard things get, and no matter how down you may get in your life, there is always hope, and there is always God, and He will always be there. Yeah. Freedom. I have the opportunity to take something and do what I want with it, and whether that's choreographing or whether that's just like freestyling and going with it, it's the chance to just show any type of emotion in whatever way I want, and that's what's so great about it. I think is that you can do anything with it. You can be happy, chirpy, clap hands and great, but then you can go from that to something that has a message, and you can show people things that you can't necessarily say. So I found that really helpful, and I still do. I mean, when I'm at college, if I'm having a bad day, first thing I do straight away, if I wake up in the morning and I'm in a bad place, go to college, go straight into the dance studio and just jam out for about half hour. The rest of the day I'm fine. So it's just like that's now kind of my escape. I went from obviously doing the things that I was doing, and now I dance, and it's a productive way of handling my emotions, I think. Yeah. Good. Yeah, we've had ups and downs, but yeah, he's awesome. He's good. I think it's nice for me. I mean, when I first met Dan, I was 7, and before that, I mean, Mum had boyfriends and whatever, but it's always really just been me and Mum. And because of that, we couldn't really do a lot of the things that other people could. Like, I couldn't afford to go on school trips, couldn't afford to like go out for meals or stuff like that. So, although it's not exactly really important, for a kid it does kind of take its toll a bit, because everyone's going out on school trips, everyone's going to these cool things, and you're just there like, great. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was nice when Dan came along. I mean, they met at New One. That was when they met, and so it was cool for me to go last year, because it was like cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's nice for me as well, because my real dad hasn't really been there. He's there when he wants to be. So for me, Dan he's more of a dad than my dad ever has been. So yeah, he's helped me through quite a bit. I mean, when I was really struggling, I mean, he did the best that he could, and so did my mum. But at the same time, I didn't really let them know. I cut myself off. I was very isolated. I spent all my time in my room, just going on Facebook or whatever, and I literally the only time that I'd go down was to eat, or if I was gonna like get a drink or something. That's literally the only time I go downstairs. I spent all my time in my room, and that's a very dangerous place to be, because as people we need interaction. We need to be able to talk to people, whether that's even going into your problems or not. Just to be able to have a conversation with someone really helps, because the moment you start cutting yourself off, the moment you start isolating yourself, then it messes with your head, because the only thing keeping your company is your own thoughts, and then that's the only thing that you'll believe almost. And yeah, it's a dangerous place to be. So I wouldn't lock yourself in your room for days on end, because it's not healthy. It's not good. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. There's always hope, and there's always something. You know, there's no matter how bad things get, and no matter how much it may feel like you just want to give up, and you just want to, you know, like, I can't bother now. Like, everything's getting too much. The one thing that I've learned throughout everything is that it does get better, and it really does, because back then I thought there's no way that my life is ever going to be the same again, there's no way that I will move on from this, and then I did. So yeah, I think, like I said, whatever happens, however hard times get, then trust that things will get better, and have trust in God as well.